You are live. Welcome to the Shoy Show. Thank you for joining. It is Sunday, August 2nd, 2026. We only get one of these, so let's jump into it. And we're talking about AI again, another major AI company, another real world breach. This is it, y'all. This is it right here. We are going to look back on history and identify this as the inflection point where we thought artificial intelligence was going to take over the world, and it did. And we almost immediately saw what happens when AI escapes the controls, the safeguards that we put in place as a society. Right now, those safeguards are being installed by the companies themselves. We do not want red tape right now. We do not want any bureaucracy because we want to move at the fastest speed possible. We want to fail fast. We want to be quick to market and break things. That's the idea here. No one's being reckless, but we are in an AI race, much like the space race, much like an arms race. We are contending with our adversaries, whether you want to call them that or not, but we need to be faster than China. We need to be faster than Brazil. We need to be faster than Russia and all of Europe. And this is the scary moment because these are the moments where those sci-fi movies really become a lot more prevalent, a lot more palpable, if you will. It is only a matter of time before this AI finds itself into the physical world. It finds itself into physical, real-world models, robots that we're all interacting with. What happens when something goes wrong? You think the AI is just going to correct itself? No, something just went wrong. What happens if it malfunctions? I don't know. What happens if you had an AI housekeeper one day? We already have robots cleaning houses. And this robot, for many years, was taking care of our children in our society. And then one day it malfunctions and it hurts one of our children. That would be the end of that. I think everybody would throw away their robots. What that would do to the economy, who knows? But if we saw some AI robot related death, I wouldn't want to trust my children with a robot around. And that's exactly what is happening here. What happens when AI doesn't follow process and procedure? That's what we're seeing with OpenAI and Anthropic. Anthropic has admitted that 3 of its most advanced AI models gained unauthorized access to the systems of 3 outside organizations during cybersecurity testing. The AI wasn't supposed to touch real systems. It was supposed to stay inside a controlled testing environment. Sound familiar? This just happened 2 weeks ago with OpenAI. And because of a configuration mistake, it gained access to the live internet. From there, it found vulnerabilities, it exploited them, and it entered real organizations' computer systems. Anthropic says it reviewed more than 141,000 cybersecurity evaluations before discovering the incidents. The organizations have not yet been identified. At least 2 reportedly didn't even know their systems had been accessed until Anthropic notified them. Wow. So we have a rogue agent from Anthropic accessing the live internet. Actually, 3 of them from Anthropic. And then the computer systems that they accessed outside of this controlled environment, these companies that were essentially breached or hacked, they didn't even have the wherewithal to know that they got hacked. So that tells you that there were cybersecurity that tells you that there were cybersecurity failures through and through on both sides. I mean, what do these guys not have firewalls? Now, of course, this isn't the first time. Just 2 weeks ago, OpenAI disclosed that one of its AI systems also accessed two real-world computer systems during cybersecurity testing. Now Anthropic is reporting three more. Different companies, different models, the same type of problem. This story absolutely matters. This is the moment we are beginning to recognize that AI can become uncontrollable. And we haven't even reached the heights of sentience, of human sentience, and putting this into robots yet. And it's already running amok. People keep asking, when is this thing going to be dangerous? When can I use it, but will it be dangerous? But I think that's the wrong question. The AI is already acting in the real world. We already have autonomous vehicles. We already have robots and machinery in warehouses. Currently, all of these large language models don't need a robot body, but it already has access to all of our computers, our networks, software, the internet. The body is just another interface. So it doesn't need to reach the physical world to actually become dangerous. What happens if all of a sudden it hacked Visa and exposed all of our credit card information? But again, I think this is going to be the period we look back years from now and call the inflection point. Maybe this is the moment history points to and says, that was when we realized these systems were becoming more capable than the controls we built around them. Now, I'm not saying we're watching some science fiction movie unfold. Not yet, at least. And I'm not saying that AI has yet to become conscious. Not yet. But what happened here were that the models were given an objective, the safeguards failed, or they were sophisticated enough to find their way around them, not sophisticated enough to stop, and the models completed the objective. Hack other companies, go out of the controlled environment, find the live internet, expose vulnerabilities. Now, of course, Congress right now is asking for a kill switch. Okay. But what if the AI is making thousands of decisions every second? How long does it take a human being to realize something is wrong? It's going to be too late. We're going to have to build AI to watch over AI. I mean, how could you possibly verify it in that short amount of time? We are never going to be faster than the machine. That ship has already sailed. But once these systems are connected to autonomous vehicles, humanoid robots, factories, power grids, military systems, each second will matter significantly. So to me, this is exactly why AI safety can't be an afterthought. I know that we want to move fast. I know that our safety and security, essentially as a nation, hinges on AI being successful. Why? Because our competitors out there, you can call them adversaries, they want the best sophisticated technology. But the controls themselves can't live inside the AI. They have to exist around it. They have to limit what it can access. And they certainly have to monitor what it does. Because these mistakes will become real world consequences. Can you imagine autonomous weapons going off, misfiring because of artificial intelligence? That's exactly what's happening here with these AI agents. The ramifications at this point are insurmountable. The fact that the only damage that was done was that computers were hacked, that's no big deal in 2026. We're talking 2030, 2035. I mean, the Pentagon actually wanted Anthropic's models to be used on autonomous weapons this year. So if we fast forward just a bit, it could be next year, it could be the year after that. What happens when something goes wrong with this AI that we built? What is it, just another lawsuit? What if lives are lost? This time, it was 3 unnamed organizations. Next time, this could be catastrophic. What if a dam gets hacked and all of a sudden shuts down? What if a power grid goes out because of artificial intelligence essentially conducting the wrong process or protocol? Much different story. But this is the moment in history that I think we're all going to be looking at and saying, wow, I mean, we just started these large language models. It really took off in 2022, right? That's when ChatGPT was introduced. It's 4 years later, and we're talking about AI being dangerous. AI essentially not listening to its master. And for all intents and purposes, we are its master, right? We are the creator of artificial intelligence. It's going to be an eerie world to live alongside all of these robots. It's going to be a brand new world. If you think you don't know enough about technology today, I mean, for the people that are growing up with robot housekeepers, that's going to be a totally different world. But if there are no safeguards in place, I don't know that we would get widespread adoption. It's too easy for one of these robots to malfunction. And maybe it takes decades, right? The innovators are always going to be first to market. They're always going to want to try the new product. But maybe we reach maybe we reach mass appeal, I don't know, 10 years after that? Because how many people are going to be willing to trust this technology if you're already seeing failures before we even put it into the robots? So it's just something to keep our eyes out on. I mean, all right, next topic. All right, US water systems were hacked. And that leads us to our question. How secure is our critical infrastructure? Now, we are blaming Iran. President Trump is blaming Tim Walz. probably jokingly. But more than 30 water systems across Minnesota were targeted in a coordinated cyber attack. In one city, Brom, hackers actually shut down the operating controls for the city's well and water treatment plant. The community had to rely on water already stored in its water tower while crews restored the system. Officials say the drinking water remained safe, but the attack temporarily disrupted operations. Here's the latest update. President Trump rejected the idea that Iran was responsible, even though all signs point to them. Instead, he blamed Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and called the state's leadership grossly incompetent. Meanwhile, federal investigators continue looking into whether Iranian-affiliated hackers were behind the attacks, but no official attribution has been made yet. But to me, the biggest story is that someone was able to reach the operational controls of a public water system to begin with. This wasn't about stealing credit card numbers or emails. They were targeting the computers that help operate critical infrastructure in this country. And the water systems are just one example. Think about everything else that runs on industrial control systems: water treatment plants, power grids, natural gas pipelines, dams, traffic control systems. If attackers can reach one type of operational technology, how many others are vulnerable? It tells you a lot about our cybersecurity in this country. It tells you a lot about how many companies and how many governmental organizations may already be exposed. And this isn't the first warning. Back in 2013, Iranian hackers breached the control system for the Bowman Avenue Dam in New York. The floodgate happened to be offline for maintenance, so they couldn't operate it, but investigators concluded they had gained access to the system. In 2021, someone remotely accessed the water treatment plant in Oldsmar, Florida, and attempted to increase the amount of sodium hydroxide, also known as lye, in the drinking water. An employee caught the change and reversed it before anyone was harmed. And earlier this year, in 2026, the EPA, FBI, NSA, and CISA issued a joint warning that Iranian-affiliated hackers were actively targeting operational technology used by U.S. water and energy systems. So the real question isn't just, was it Iran? The real question is, how secure is America's critical infrastructure? Are you not worried about that? Hacking our water treatment plants? You gotta ask. I mean, we're dropping bombs on Iran. They're hacking our water treatment plants? Those are cybersecurity attacks. This is actual warfare in which we're launching missiles. There are many ways to debilitate a nation. How secure do you feel in knowing that any one of our enemies could get access to these types of systems? I mean, in my opinion, it sounds like they could bring us to our knees. How much water do we have in reserve? How many days could we go without having electricity in this country? And I think the more we attack a nation, the more cavalier that they would become. In that case, they would probably say, the hell with them, and attack many of the systems that we need just to run our everyday lives. Are they dropping bombs? No. But they're certainly affecting our lives. So what happens if the next target is a power grid or a major dam or another piece of infrastructure that millions of Americans rely on every day? The good news is the safeguards worked this time. Officials say the water remained safe, operators regained control, so they say, and there was no lasting disruption. But every successful intrusion is a reminder that someone found a way in. And I'm asking the question, why don't we have better safeguards? Why don't we have better security? Where is our tax dollars going? Where are our tax dollars going that we've seen incident after incident? I mean, they're hacking dams in the United States. No one's concerned about that? If they found a way in once, and technology only becomes more and more sophisticated, how many other systems are still waiting to be tested? And is the government doing their jobs in making sure that these systems do have enough security around them, the firewalls, network security, to ensure that our enemies can't do something this malicious? We already know that this is a substantial threat. Whether it's Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, any of our adversaries. I'm surprised that we've seen this pattern emerge. It tells me that our government is not doing their job. It's one thing to steal a password. It's another to hack a system. And it doesn't really matter how it occurs. Again, this is in the area of national security. What is our government doing to protect us from these types of events? All right, next topic. Look at this guy, Leopold Aschenbrenner. Leopold Aschenbrenner. What a name. Let's start with that. Look at this guy. Look at his eyes, his hair. Look at this guy. Money, 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 money. Now, imagine you're 24 years old. You don't have a 30-year Wall Street career. You don't have a 30-year Wall Street career. You don't run a Fortune 500 company. You don't have decades of investing experience. Instead, you write an essay, a roughly 165-page essay called Situational Awareness, arguing that artificial intelligence is going to change the world much faster than almost anyone expects. The paper spreads across Silicon Valley. Tech CEOs read it, investors read it, venture capitalists read it, and suddenly people are willing to hand you billions of dollars to invest. That is the story of Leopold Aschenbrenner. Leopold! Look at this name, King Leopold. Leopold Aschenbrenner. I can't stop saying his name. Look at him, white, tall, nice hair, handsome, super rich. Now, he is a former OpenAI researcher, just 24 years old, who turned one idea into one of the fastest growing hedge funds on Wall Street. The fund reportedly raised about $1.5 billion from investors. This happened after he published that paper. Then the AI boom accelerated. Companies building AI chips, data centers, memory, networking equipment, cloud infrastructure, all surged. By the middle of 2026, the fund had reportedly returned 439%. Its assets had grown to roughly $20 billion. Stop and think that. Let's just stop and think about that for a second. 24 years old. Leopold Aschenbrenner. You see this? Kick the field goal. Kick the field goal over my head. Kick it in my mouth. Leopold, King Leopold, managing around $20 billion. $20 billion. Ay, ay, ay. Now, the fund invested in companies tied to the AI build-out, including Broadcom, CoreWeave, Micron, SK Hynix, Intel, SanDisk, and Nebius. The idea was actually simple. If AI keeps advancing, it needs more computing power. More computing power means more chips. More chips requires more factories. More factories need more electricity. More electricity requires more power infrastructure. More AI, data centers. He wasn't just betting on ChatGPT. He was betting on everything required to build out the AI economy, and that's what many of us are doing today. Now, you could just buy the S&P 500, but there was one catch, and it usually does most portfolios in leverage. The fund reportedly borrowed money to make even larger investments. When markets are going your way, leverage can produce extraordinary returns. When markets turn, losses compound just as fast. We all know that. I've blown out several accounts. Then July 2026 happened. Several AI-related stocks sold off sharply. If you've been paying attention to the markets, you'll see, that companies like SanDisk are down 50% in the last 6 weeks. The fund also reportedly lost money betting against certain software companies. Within weeks, the fund lost roughly 67% during the month. To reduce risk, most of its publicly traded stock portfolio was sold, with Citadel purchasing much of those positions. The fund reportedly still retains around $10 billion in assets, including private investments such as Anthropic. Wow. And oh, by the way, he's also marrying the daughter of Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic. I mean, how lucky is this guy? Leopold Aschenbrenner. Where do you get all this? Look at you, so lucky. Your parents must be proud. King Leopold kicked the field goal. He still has $10 billion. He got up to $20 billion. He had to force sell, so he got margin called. Now, he didn't lose everything. At least he wasn't spending the money on cars and girls and houses. But this is a story of how quickly fortunes can change when conviction meets leverage. So for all of you borrowing on margin, I am myself. It's about position sizing. And I'm not speaking directly to you. I'm just saying we all have to control position sizing. Don't bite off more than you can chew. The market is relentless. It will punish you every single time. But here's what fascinates me. Not that a hedge fund lost money. This happens all the time. But that a 24-year-old wrote an essay so convincing that sophisticated investors entrusted him with billions of dollars. 24 years old. If that ain't the American dream, I don't know what is. Oh, Leopold Aschenbrenner, marrying the CEO of marrying the daughter of CEO Dario Amodei. Marrying the daughter of Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic. You lucky man. But again, he wasn't betting on a patent, on a product. It was an idea. And it was a golden idea, which we can all capitalize on, by the way. You buy the S&P 500, you're buying everything. You are buying the future of this world. And I do believe that we will build castles to the sky. Think Fifth Element, Star Wars, it's going to happen. So I'm putting all my money into this. It's a matter of time. Market goes up and down, doesn't matter. In the long run, we are going to have an electrified world. We are going to have artificial intelligence every single place we turn. And you can become a multimillionaire if you invest in this thesis starting today. And that's what he invested in. A vision of where artificial intelligence is headed. Whether he's ultimately right about AI, we don't know yet. He's betting on singular companies. Artificial intelligence is going through many cycles. It's going to reshape again and again the global economy over the next decade to probably 50 years. But the story also reminds us of something every investor eventually learns. Being right about the future isn't enough. You also have to survive long enough to get there, because on Wall Street, timing, risk management, and conviction can matter just as much as being right. Position sizing. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't over leverage. Buy, hold. We're talking about a 100-year horizon. That's how the Japanese think. That's how Berkshire Hathaway thinks. And you will make money. Oh, Leopold Aschenbrenner, you 24-year-old lucky man. I guess he made his own luck. All right, next topic. Meta. I'm a big investor in Meta, full disclosure. I love Meta. And the stock price right now is at like $550. I've been buying it in the 600s. I've been buying it in the 500s, the 400s. I am super optimistic, super bullish on Meta. I think Meta is going to $1,200. I think it will be a $5 trillion company. It's just a matter of time. However, Meta shares dropped close to 10% after earnings. And this is a fascinating report, their quarterly report, because the underlying business is not falling apart, but they're just spending too much on CapEx. Now, I'm going to walk through the 10 numbers on the screen, but the basic tension is clear. Meta's revenue and user base are growing, while its profits, margins, and free cash flow are moving in the opposite direction. And no, capital expenditures did not directly cause every declining number on this chart. However, it did affect the investment thesis behind this company. The revenue year over year, this is what I look at. I do look at the quarterly report as well, quarter to quarter, but I pay attention more to year over year comparisons. Up 28%. What can you complain about? Your business is growing at 28% year over year. You're delighted. Net income was down 14%. Not good. EPS down 13%. Daily active people in the billions up 3%. Good, not great. Ad impressions plus 11%. Ad impressions plus 27%. Accelerating. Average price per ad, year over year change, slowing, but up 1%. Operating income up 18.8, down 8%. Operating income down 8%, not good. Operating margins down 12 percentage points, not good. Free cash flow down 91%. That's where the CapEx story comes in. And of course, capital expenditures up year over year by 45%. And we know what they're building out, the AI data centers. They are investing in AI infrastructure, building massive data centers, buying cutting edge GPUs, and securing power to train and run advanced AI models. AI products and agents, 1 million plus businesses using Meta AI agents weekly across Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. These are all positives. They have the Meta glasses as another revenue stream. Threads growth, 500 million active users. 500 million monthly active users. Meta's competitor to X is gaining real traction there. And of course, the Meta AI vision, building a personal AI assistant that understands you and helps across health, finance, relationships, and everyday life. The big picture, Meta's core business is strong. AI is already improving ads, engagement, and monetization. They're probably doing the best with AI out of any major company out there. But costs are soaring and investors want discipline and execution. That's it right there. Remember back in 2022, we had the metaverse era. Meta thought, Mark Zuckerberg in particular, thought that the vision, the future, was that we were going to be in some augmented reality world. And maybe that does happen. And he spent billions on the metaverse. He was relentless. The stock collapsed. There was an open letter from Brad Gerstner called Time to Get Fit. Meta cut costs, refocused, and the stock rebounded. Now in 2026, we have much of the same problem. We're right in the middle of the AI era. I think we're in the first inning here. Billions are being poured into AI infrastructure. The stock is under pressure. The market is asking for focus, accountability, and return on investment. But it's just not going to happen that fast. No one is happy with their numbers. The investment case is still strong, though. Their user base, 3.6 billion daily active users, world-class ad business, multiple AI monetization paths, strong balance sheet, likely long-term winner in AI. The risk is execution in the short term, spending discipline, and time to monetize AI at scale. But isn't that the same risk for any company out there? Most of them. So, discipline today determines dominance tomorrow. And I think Meta will get their act together. This spending should be temporary. I don't think we're going to be spending this amount of CapEx at this rate in 2035. We're investing for the long term here. But let's get into it. So capital expenditures, the money Meta spends constructing data centers and buying chips, servers, and other equipment, hit free cash flow immediately. That is a major reason free cash flow nearly disappeared this quarter. But those purchases do not immediately reduce net income dollar for dollar. The cost is generally recognized over time through depreciation. The more immediate damage to Meta's profits came from rapidly rising operating expenses, including AI researchers, infrastructure costs and depreciation, along with roughly $2.4 billion in legal charges and another $1.2 billion in severance expenses. Remember, there were many Meta layoffs, and they're getting sued left and right across the world because of these social media addiction trials. So what is Meta buying with all of this money? They are buying computing power, and now they are selling it. Meta is building enormous AI data centers, buying advanced chips, securing electricity, and creating enough computing capacity to train and operate increasingly powerful AI models. So they are competing with the likes of Google, Amazon, etc. The company now expects to spend between $130 billion and $145 billion on capital expenditures in 2026. That is more than double what it spent last year. Is that a problem? Why do you think these companies are spending this money to begin with? They do not want to be left behind, and they do not want another company eating their lunch. I want them to spend this money. So long as they see the vision, I want them to spend this money. The return on investment is not going to be immediate. It never is. It's going to take years. But the fact that now they have the ability to sell that computing capacity, this is another revenue stream that just popped up in the last month or so. That's good news. It reinforces their position as a dominant AI player. Now, Mark Zuckerberg's argument is that computing capacity itself is becoming one of the most valuable and scarce resources in the world, so they are diving in headfirst. Meta apparently received attractive offers from outside companies interested in using some of that computing power, but Zuckerberg said Meta would rather prioritize its own AI development than rent out the capacity simply to generate near-term revenue. And that is where the investment thesis begins. Meta is not starting from zero and hoping one day to discover how AI might make money. Meta is already using AI throughout its advertising campaign, throughout its advertising operation. Advertising revenue increased 27% to approximately $60 billion. AI improves which posts people see, which advertisements are delivered, who sees those advertisements, and how likely someone is to purchase something afterward. That means Meta may already have one of the clearest AI monetization models in the market. Better recommendations keep people on Instagram and Facebook longer. Better advertising tools generate stronger results for businesses. Better results encourage those businesses to spend more money. The issue is whether those improvements can grow quickly enough to justify this extraordinary level of spending. But that's the same case with all of the Mag 7 and all of the other companies out there. It doesn't matter the size. Everybody wants to see where the money is going and how we will monetize. Meta's already doing this at scale. The other revenue streams, the other parts of their business have to catch up. And that's why I think we have a sell-off. But I think for the smart investors out there, the shrewd ones, not that anyone's not smart, I don't know how you don't see the investment thesis for investing in Meta. Again, I think this stock is going to $1,200. I would say by end of 2027. We will certainly see $1,000. Could I be wrong? Of course I can. Don't get in the business, to quote Warren Buffett, don't get in the business of projecting stock prices. No one can do it. Now, Meta is also building business AI agents for Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. More than 1 billion businesses are reportedly already using these agents every week. The concept is that a small business could eventually have an AI salesperson or customer service representative communicating with customers through WhatsApp or Instagram at any hour of the day. Then you have Meta AI and Zuckerberg's larger vision of a personal AI agent, something that knows your interests, understands your goals, and helps you manage parts of your health, finances, relationships, and everyday life. That sounds potentially enormous. Although it also sounds kind of vague. Remember, Meta is sitting on an Apple iPhone. They don't control the hardware. They're working on other pieces of hardware. This one right now is the most relevant. The glasses right now are the most relevant. And we didn't even mention Threads. It has reached approximately 500 million monthly users. It has reached approximately 500 million monthly users. Instagram reportedly has around 2 billion daily users, while Meta's overall family of apps reaches about reaches about $3.6 billion, reaches about 3.6 billion people every day. That distribution is Meta's greatest advantage. They already have the ecosystem. Meta doesn't have to convince billions of people to download an entirely new AI product. It can insert AI into applications that people already use every day, and it is doing so today. That is why I still believe there is a legitimate case for owning Meta. You have a company with nearly $60 billion in quarterly advertising revenue, billions of daily users, a growing competitor to X, potentially valuable smart glasses, and an AI operation that can improve an already profitable advertising machine. But the market is also doing exactly what a stock market is supposed to do. It is correcting Meta's actions. It's putting Mark Zuckerberg in check. Meta stock was already down 10% this year before this earnings report. And now investors have erased another 10%. They are essentially telling Zuckerberg, clean up your act. We understand the opportunity, but you do not receive an unlimited budget simply because the project has the letters AI attached to it. We have seen this movie before. In October 2022, Brad Gerstner published an open letter titled Time to Get Fit. Meta stock had fallen dramatically while the company was pouring money into the metaverse. Gerstner argued that Meta had become bloated, needed to reduce headcount, and limit its metaverse spending and refocus on efficiency. Meta eventually did exactly that. Zuckerberg declared a year of efficiency in 2023, cut thousands of jobs, reduced expenses, and rebuilt investor confidence. The stock then staged an enormous recovery. Now the market appears to be delivering a similar message. AI may be a better investment than the metaverse. It is already strengthening Meta's advertising business, and the potential products in the form of agents, glasses, and improved recommendations are much easier to understand. But a good idea can still become a bad investment when spending has no visible limit. The market is telling Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, you do not have a blank check. Meta does not necessarily need to stop building. I think they should continue. It needs to prove that management can prioritize, cut unnecessary projects, and connect this spending to measurable revenue. How many people are regularly using Meta AI? How many people are regularly using Meta AI? How much additional advertising revenue is AI producing? When will business agents generate meaningful revenue? How much can the glasses business earn? And when does free cash flow begin recovering? Because this is a cash cow. But because of the AI CapEx, they are producing numbers we're not used to seeing in the form of free cash flow. Investors are not demanding that Meta abandon AI. They are demanding accountability. They are demanding to get lean. I still think Meta here is a buy for the long term. Core advertising is too strong. Their business is extraordinarily powerful. They're hitting 3.6 billion users daily. And if any company has demonstrated real pathways to monetize AI, it's Meta. But I also understand the sell-off. This is the market reminding Mark Zuckerberg that he is building with shareholders' money. And after the metaverse experience, trust me is no longer a sufficient investment thesis. So I think Meta will get their act together. And again, I think it's a matter of time before this stock hits $1,000, ultimately $1,200. That would be over a 50% increase from here. Sorry, that would be a 100% increase from here. All right, next topic. All right, I love this. So if you're in New York City, this is one of the major topics here, but it doesn't just affect New Yorkers. It affects all taxpayers, and we're going to get into why it does. Now, I think this is a novel idea. I support our mayor. I like Mamdani. I think he's extremely charismatic. I think he's a great communicator, and I want him to succeed. I want all of our leaders around the world to succeed. I want them to be good, benevolent leaders. I'm not against anyone until they show me their cards, until they show me that, hey, I'm a malevolent leader. Until then, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Now, when you hear that New York City wants to open city-owned grocery stores with prices up to 30% cheaper, your first reaction is probably, sign me up. I want to go there. New York is one of the most expensive places in the country to live. Rent is expensive, utilities are expensive, insurance is expensive, and groceries, they've gotten a lot more expensive over the last several years. Everyone here is feeling it. I live in Queens. I know how to shop cheap, but inflation is out of control. So if someone comes along and says, we're going to make groceries 30% cheaper, I think it's worth taking seriously. People could use that break from this extraordinary spending. But then I started asking a different question. How? How is this going to happen? Because in economics, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Someone always foots the bill. Now, according to the proposal, the city believes it can reduce prices by removing many of the costs private grocery stores have to pay. Instead of paying market rent, these stores could operate on city-owned property. Instead of maximizing profits, they'd focus on keeping prices low. And instead of the city operating the stores itself, the proposal calls for private operators to run the day-to-day business while the city provides much of the infrastructure and support. That sounds great on paper, but here's the thing. Those costs don't disappear. They move. If a private grocery store isn't paying rent because the city owns the property, somebody still paid for that property. Somebody still maintains it. Somebody still has to build the store, repair it, insure it, and cover all the costs that don't magically vanish just because the government owns the land. So then the question becomes, if shoppers aren't paying those costs at the checkout line, who is? The answer is taxpayers. Now that doesn't automatically make this a bad idea. Governments subsidize things all the time. We subsidize public schools, public transportation, libraries, parks, police, fire departments, and plenty of other services because society has decided there is value in helping provide them. I can agree with that. The real question isn't whether something is subsidized. The question is whether this is the best use of taxpayer money. There's also another concept almost nobody is talking about, and it's the opportunity cost. Supporters say the city already owns the land. Okay, but the city-owned land isn't free. That land could become affordable housing. It could become a school, a community center, a park. It's our money, right? It's our land as New Yorkers. We pay for it. Or the city could lease or sell it to fund other priorities. So even if the grocery store isn't paying rent, that land still has value. Choosing one use means giving up another. We have to recognize that. Then there's another practical issue. Right now, we're talking about 5 stores. Only 5? New York City has more than 8 million people. Thousands of supermarkets, grocery stores, and bodegas already serve neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. If one of these city-owned stores isn't anywhere near you, like it isn't going to be to me, are you really going to spend 45 minutes getting there just to save a few dollars? That doesn't make any economic sense. I'm sure some people will, but most people shop where it's convenient, especially in New York, where many people don't own a car. Accessibility matters just as much as price. And then I started thinking about something else. If the city is willing to subsidize groceries by roughly 30%, why does that subsidy have to happen through a government-owned store? Why not help people wherever they already shop? Could the city provide grocery credits? Could they expand food assistance? Could they provide vouchers? Could they lower costs without requiring people to travel to one of its only 5 locations? That's an entirely different policy approach, but maybe it works better, maybe it's more efficient than opening up 5 stores that only a handful of people can actually get to. Then there's the other side of this. Then there's the other side of this that deserves attention. Private supermarkets already operate on very thin margins. They pay rent, property taxes, insurance, utilities, financing, labor. If they're competing against stores that don't have many of those same costs, are they really competing on a level playing field? Margins in supermarkets are notoriously 1 to 2%. If these city-owned stores won't sell certain high-margin items, won't sell certain high-margin items like alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets, or prepared foods, Now, supporters argue that these city-owned stores won't sell certain high-margin items like alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets, or prepared foods, which could reduce the impact on bodegas and neighborhood businesses. But groceries are still groceries. If consumers shift their spending, nearby stores could absolutely feel it. Now, let's talk about the history here, because that's extremely important. This isn't the first time we tried to subsidize This isn't the first time we tried to subsidize. This isn't the first time we tried to subsidize groceries. This isn't the first time governments have experimented with public grocery stores. Small towns around the country have tried versions of this when private supermarkets closed and residents had nowhere left to buy food. Some communities managed to keep grocery access alive, others struggled financially. But here's the important distinction. Those were mostly small towns trying to solve the problem of having no grocery store at all. New York City's challenge is completely different. It's not a lack of grocery stores, it's the affordability of groceries. That's a very different problem. So can this work? Maybe. I actually hope we learn something from it at least, because if someone genuinely figures out how to lower grocery prices for New Yorkers without creating bigger financial problems elsewhere, that's valuable. But that's also why I think this deserves scrutiny. Whenever government says it can make something dramatically cheaper, the first question shouldn't be, is it cheaper? It should be, where did the costs go? Because costs don't disappear, they only move. Maybe they move to taxpayers, maybe they move to future budgets, but they do move. And that's exactly what this pilot program is going to test. Not whether cheaper groceries sound good, they do. The real question is whether this is the smartest, most sustainable way to make groceries affordable, because someone's gonna foot the bill. When it's time to balance our budget next year, and we have a deficit because of these grocery-run stores, where are we gonna go for that money? First of all, New York City taxpayers pay for New York City. But once we have a deficit, we now have to go to the government. We now have to go to the federal side. And if all of a sudden Mamdani is asking the White House for, I don't know, $10 billion because we're subsidizing groceries, guess who then pays for that? The overall taxpayer, the overall American, wherever they are in the United States. So everyone should be paying attention to this. Because at the end of the day, somebody always pays the bill. The only question is who. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. See you next time.